speaking of money, Nalida is we met in Utah. So I'm from Iowa. I don't know if you guys remember that. I'm from Iowa. Nalida and I met actually at a money. We were both working with a financial and money coach, and we met there and became partners. And so we had calls regularly during that time, and that was 4 years ago. And Nalida and I still have our call every week. So we're still supporting one another on our journeys. And so Nalida is actually, I'm going to do a quick introduction and then we're going to do sort of a Q&A conversation here. So Nalida Cardinelle is a single mother to four of the most wonderful and exciting children. They're my pride and joy. Well, they're her pride and joy, but I like them too. For the past 20 years, she has been bookkeeping on and off while working jobs as a sales specialist, customer service rep, assistant chef, receptionist, yoga instructor, and steel purchaser. Bookkeeping is in her blood. After a major life event, she launched into being the business owner of Nalida's bookkeeping service and has been proudly building her business for the last 5 years. She now offers services for many individuals and small businesses. She passionately wants to generate a six-figure income working 20 hours or less for herself and other stay-at-home mothers. She loves to create a well-rounded lifestyle that includes cooking, sewing, reading, ballroom dancing, travel, yoga, homeschooling, hiking, and board games. Nalida, you're so fun. Life is full of opportunities to be optimistic, and she strives for that optimism daily. Help me welcome Nalida. Woo! Thanks for being here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me. It's really
Yeah,
great to be able to hear and learn all of the things that I've learned so far being part of the summit. So I
yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, you've been here most of the week too, so that's great. I love your shirt. You have an Nalida's bookkeeping logo and shirt. That's
Yeah, I got my logo. I've got, shirts. It's super fun. It feels like
branded.
I have a business, right? For the first few years, just working out of my house, right? And this is my office in my house but I was like, well, I do have business, but it only looked like a business online. And so now I got shirts. I think last year I was like, I'm going to get these shirts. And so it has been fun to be able to fully represent my company just walking around. So it's great.
Yeah, I love that. All right. So when we were talking about having you come in and share today, we were also talking about how bookkeeping is such a mental thing sometimes, right? It's such a mindset. And so can you just start talking today maybe a little bit about how your journey with business and bookkeeping began and how did you get into this field? I mean, you have a big family. Like, who inspired you? Where did you been to Chicago and places?
Okay, yes, I will I'm going to say my semi-short history. I am going to tie in for any of you that did listen to Samuel Knickerbocker's talk yesterday. I'm calling it a talk, sorry, his presentation. That house, that old dilapidated house, is the house I am standing in right now. So he is my younger brother. We have 11 siblings all together, and he's number 7, and I'm number 3. I'm the oldest girl. So one of the things that I would say growing up, right, we were homeschooled, and when I was about 3, my mom was really intently trying to teach my older 2 brothers how to read. They were at that time 6 and 5. And they, I would say, one has dyslexia pretty bad. The other one had some other learning disabilities at the time. And so all of my mom's, trying to pound into their heads ABCs and 1, 2, 3s and all this wasn't completely lost on them, but I was the one off to the side that started reading and started doing math and started doing school at 3 years old. And so I started along with my brothers, and all 3 of us did the same homework up until, I would say, until high school. And then my oldest brother, who was 3 years older than me, he started high school ahead of the other 2 of us, and then Joseph and I started the next year. And by the time we started high school, right, they were of regular age. I was 12, so I started high school at 12. And in my high school courses, I took an accounting class as one of my classes. And I I had always loved math, I would say, and what I would call business math. The way that we did our math growing up was we would sit around the table and my parents would read off the questions, kind of like one room schoolhouse style, right? They'd read off the question and we'd all have to answer the question as fast as we could and see who could get it right first, right? So we did all the math in our head for the most part, right? And we were just doing math all day. It felt like it sometimes looking back. I'm like, I did a lot of math. So so my brain just worked that way. And it worked in okay, if you have 10 apples and you sell them for this much, how much do they cost? And then if you hand the person $10, how much do you get back in change? And keeping all of that in my mind straight and everything, that was something that was just part of how I learned growing up. And then take another step there. Both of my parents were trained bookkeepers. They both had associate's degrees in bookkeeping. And so my dad, by the time I was 13, my dad and mom had started a little, I'm going to call it a boutique bookkeeping company, and they had 2 or 3 clients. And again, working out of this house, my parents just did the bookkeeping. So they would go drive into Salt Lake and they would pick up the ledgers from their clients that were all handwritten ledgers, and they bring them home and put them in the computer. And we used Quattro Pro, I think was the system we were using at the time, but long time ago. So it kind of dates me for how long ago we were. So I took this accounting class in high school and I really liked it. I did well for the most part. Debits and credits were hard. I think that there are many CPAs that still debits and credits are hard. That's probably the hardest part, is like, which side does it go on, because of all the different things inside of bookkeeping, or in accounting, I should say. So I had done this class and I had done pretty well. And so my dad said, well, hey, do you want to work for me? So at 13 years old, I had my first paid bookkeeping gig, and I did the bookkeeping for one of our clients that did not speak English very well. So my dad would go in and talk to him, bring the ledgers home, and I would put all this information into the computer, and then we'd get their statements and stuff ready for them. So that was my first experience, I would say, with accounting, was at 13. And then I finished high school, went on to college, and decided to get a degree in business management with an emphasis in finance and psychology. The two there were because I really wanted to become an HR manager, and they didn't have an HR degree at the school that I went to. And so I was like, okay, I'll pick these two. I got out of school and decided, yeah, that's not exactly for me. So I went into all these other different things. The sales, I sold steel, I sold Tupperware, I sold all sorts of different things that way. I did the assistant chef thing. That was really fun. And then as I was in each of these jobs, it was like I was the go-to Excel person. So the managers, like the general manager, would come to me and be like, hand me just stacks of papers and be like, okay, can you create something that looks nice so we can go talk to this guy over here to sell this? And so I became like the company Excel guru. They'd bring me stuff. I'd make presentations for them and stuff like that. So that brought in more of my learning from college, and again, numbers, where I'd be like, okay, this number needs to be here, and create the whole sheet for the sales presentation. So that was that. And then I ended up getting married, and during my marriage, my husband ran a small handyman type company. And so I would do the bookkeeping for that to keep everything in track, where we had, sales and all that kind of stuff. So I did that. And then about 9.5 years into our marriage, I realized that we were getting divorced. And I was like, okay, that's happening. And so I went looking for something. At the time, I was working for a steel company in Salt Lake. And I was like, I had just had my 4th child, and she was brand new. And I was like, I don't want to miss her life. I want to be able to be available. Every time the kids would have problems, I was the one who ended up having to come home from work and deal with it. And so my job was already teetering because she keeps having to take time off and all the hullabaloo there. And so I realized I needed to do something from home. And so this is when bookkeeping came up to my mind again. And I was like, maybe I could do it. Okay. So I jumped in, got my first client a few months later. And then after I gotten my first client, I think it was a month and a half later, I filed for divorce. We did our final filing. And 2 days later, I lost my job. So I was like, well, guess that was perfect. So COVID happened and lost my job. And so that's kind of what threw me into this 5 years ago was the COVID stuff really, that's what made it a full-time thing for me was that I lost the full-time job and needed to step into this. Something that Annie had talked that as she was asking me about where did I learn about money? I learned about all the tracking and things like that, but we go back to this mindset thing and what deeper things did I learn about money? And I'm going to call back the picture of that house for everyone. I don't have a copy, but I really need to get a copy of that from Samuel at some point. But the picture of that house is what my financial mindset was. It was like, there's never enough. It's really hard to get it. It's so much work. Is it even worth it? And will I ever have enough? Right? There was just never enough. For whatever reason, money was not there. There was always enough food. So for all the blessings that I call that God gave us, we never starved. There was always enough food. Money, never enough. I started working at 11, 12 years old to make money so that I could go buy clothes that I wanted or to go buy things that I wanted because we did not have enough money. I think my parents were making like $20,000 a year and we had 9, 10 kids at the time. So there just wasn't a lot of money. And so that mindset went into everything I did. It's been like this underlying thing that, yes, I can count all the money and I can do all that. And so that to me is easy, is the tracking of the money. Then I meet people who are like, oh, money just comes, but that tracking of the money isn't easy, right? So that's where I have come in with my business and said, okay, let's make a business out of this and help it either become easy for other business owners, right? So I do coach bookkeeping. So I coach people in doing their own bookkeeping and getting that up to speed, ready, where they understand it and they have a system for their own company. And then on the other side, right, I take other people's bookkeeping and they're like, I'm done, not doing this. And they hand it to me and I get it taken care of for them and get everything on track so that, again, they can go back and use that information. It's really necessary to have good information when you're making decisions instead of saying, hey, I'm going to go make this decision to go purchase this over here when you don't even know if you have the money, not even in the bank, but you even have the sales coming in that are going to provide that money to go buy this, right? So there's a lot of information that can be found and you can get the data to then have that data to make these decisions through doing the bookkeeping. So that is where I feel like one of my biggest words are not working, sorry. Strengths. One of my biggest strengths is that is easy for me, so I can teach it and I've practiced teaching it, right? I've been coaching people for almost 3-4 years now that I've been coaching people through doing their own bookkeeping and using QuickBooks. I've now recently started using another program and teaching someone else to use their program. I got another call this morning for someone else with even a different program. And I'm like, well, it's not my bread and butter, but I'm sure I can figure it out. I've seen it before. I know enough about what bookkeeping is and what accounting is and how these different programs work that I can go in, and it might take me longer because I'm not already trained, but we can find it. We can find what we need so that you have the information that you need when you go to file your taxes, you go to get loans, you go to court. There are many people that go through bankruptcy, they go through divorce, they go through all these things. And if they don't have that information to bring to the court, then again, they're coming off of incorrect data or just no data. And it's really difficult to make decisions, especially good decisions, when you don't have good information to go off of. So that is where I would say where I came to create this company and how to me, it's like fun. I love to find the numbers, even though sometimes it's like grueling to find it. Once I find the number, I'm like, we found it, we're good, right? I get so excited when the numbers all match and we can reconcile, and it's fantastically fun for me. So
Nalihda, I'm glad it's fantastically fun for you, but I'm over here being like, resistance. So, how do you work with your clients? Maybe you could walk through a process, or because there's a lot of resistance around money management. And so I'm sure that you go in, and I know you're like cleaning up the books. So then once you get the books cleaned, what are some processes that you use, or some tools or modalities that you use to help your clients start to shift their mindset? Or do you? I don't know.
I do use some. I would say I call on others also that do have good ways of getting through. Again, I've brought up Samuel quite a few times. I do call on Samuel a lot to say, hey, we've got this. I don't know how to get through it. I've been training with him, so he's been helping me be able to walk people through different mindset issues. And so as I watch him, and as I've watched people like Nicole Henry, or my current coach, Jeremiah Webb, I watch these people, how they help others. And then I'm able to step into that and realize, first of all, realize what is it that's stopping them, right? What it is that's stopping. The thing that has, I would say, worked the most for all of my clients that so far, right? Probably because it's one of the first methods that I really learned. So I feel like I've gotten better at that method, is I'm going to say the dreams, goals, law of attraction set of things where, and I'm going to show you right here. These are my favorite thing, right? Little sticky notes. So I have the people, whoever it is, right? One of my clients, she was like, I need this $30,000. I need the $30,000 to take care of all these other issues. We need this money. And I said, you know what? Write it on the sticky note. Yep. It's just going to be handwritten. It doesn't have to be fancy, like vision board style, right? I started learning about vision boards when my oldest child was like 6 months old. So 13, 14 years ago, I started learning about vision boards. And so I'm like, vision board style, right? It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to have like beautiful pictures and all this. If you can call up a picture in your mind, that's actually where the picture needs to be. The picture does not need to be on your wall. It needs to be in your mind. It needs to be in your body and experiencing what it feels like to have that thing. And so I instruct my clients to write down their goal on a sticky note and stick it somewhere where they're going to see it every day. They're going to see it, whether it's on the side of their computer, or whether it's on their office wall, whether it's on their mirror in their bathroom, somewhere where they're going to see it. And then I just say, you know what, write it down. And while I'm talking to them, I oftentimes will have them just try and think it, feel it, smell it, all the things. What does it feel like to have that goal right now? Not to like maybe have it or to have it later. No, we have it right now. It's part of who we are. And so I have them write that down. And I would say within days, sometimes hours, they call me back and they're like, oh my gosh, it just came up. I'm like, there we go. You got it. Like that $30,000, it was days. And she just was like, oh my goodness, we've got this money that's going to come and we've got access to it now. And I was like, perfect. Fantastic. Now let's work on the next one, right? So I would say that is one of the biggest ones that I do use, is write it down on a sticky note, stick it up, and just think about it, feel it, experience it inside of who you are, and walk as if you already have that. Work, do, act, all the things that you already have that, and it comes so much faster. You said something about faith earlier, Annie, and to me, that is faith. That's faith, is believing in something that you can't really see. It's not tangible yet, but you believe it so much that it is tangible to you, and it comes. It's like a magnet. The law of attraction is real. It just sucks to you, and you're like, okay, now I got it. So that's one of the biggest things that I use so far. But again, I do introduce people to other people that I know, okay, they've helped me through that, and I don't know how to get someone through that yet. Then I introduce people. So I'm not I want to say I'm not stingy. I'm like, these are my clients. I'm like, no, if I don't have the knowledge, I really, really love helping people, and I want people to have what they need. And if I can help them get it, then I'm happy. So.
Or do you have any questions for Nalihda before we continue on? Richard, I see that big smile on your face.
So, and I'm presenting next, so I don't want to overtalk, but Nalida, what you just described, how to do that with money, that money is in NLP, it's called submodalities. So the submodalities are the different emotions that you're connecting with, which are the power. And so I love that you connected that with money, and then Annie's comment in the chat there that the law of attraction, because that's what it is it's a real tangible connection. It's more than just saying it out, like just having an affirmation, just saying it without really meaning it. But so that's super powerful. Thank you for applying it there.
So that did bring up something else that I have. One, I don't know if any of you guys know what BNI is, but the Business Networking International, I'm part of that. And every so often they have you fill out your bio and all that. And so they're like, what's your secret sauce? And to me, the thing that I write on there every time, the secret sauce for me is the law of attraction coupled with the law of action. So with this kind of goes into where when Annie first introduced me, like, and when we were talking about it in the first place, she was like, well, what would you want to talk on? And I was like, the thing to me is actually doing it. Like, we can talk about this law of attraction and we can bring those things to us and we can say, okay, I need this money or I need this. But if you just are calling it to you and you're not acting as if, and you're not walking through life like you have that thing already, then the action is that other side of faith. So faith is you believe in something and then you act on that. That action for a lot of people, and where I'm skilled at and where I help people, is the action of putting the money in order, putting those books in order and sitting down and actually doing that. When I first started coaching, the way that I started coaching was I just had a forum, I'm going to say kind of like this, where I had like 10, 12 people come onto a call and we sat down with QuickBooks and I told them how to use QuickBooks, right? It was just like step by step. Okay, you do it this way, this way, this way, this way. It was a 4-week class, right? We'd get done with the class and I would call them back and I would be like, so how did it go? How are you doing with your bookkeeping? They hadn't touched it. And I was like, okay, that is not for me because I want to help people, right? And to me, that's way more important that they actually do something than that they just think about it. Like, we can all listen to audiobooks all day long, and if we do nothing about it, we do not take any action, then it didn't matter. Like, to me, it just was like, whatever, you might have learned something, but you didn't really learn it because you didn't do anything. It didn't change who you were. It didn't change your day to day. It didn't change what you were doing. And so I moved into a coaching situation where I do one-on-one coaching. I have done a couple where I have 2 clients at a time, but normally I don't unless those 2 are working at the same company, because I want them to sit down. We open up their QuickBooks or their Xero or their Sage, right? We open up their accounting program and we sit down and we walk through doing their books and set up their chart of accounts or their to-do list that they do every week to keep their books in order, right? So I moved into that because I saw actual change. I still have clients today that I started that with. I would say my second set of the big class, one of the girls that was in that class, I then went and coached her at her company, and awesome, right? She loved that part. She didn't like all the rest of the stuff she was doing at her company. So she actually left that company and came and worked for me. So now she does bookkeeping for me. But we kept that client on, and we are still doing bookkeeping for that client 3.5 years later. That started because we went to do the coaching method, let's actually take the action, make sure that the books are actually in order, make sure the reconciliation is actually done, so that when I teach them what they need to do, I also am following up and we're getting the action done and checking back in and saying, okay, here's your homework. Did you do it? And that process is, I think, what makes the whole thing work, because if you don't have that, it doesn't get done. So thank you for bringing that up, Richard.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you also said is that when we look at our financials and understand them, we might not have to be proficient at the level of an accountant, but we can also generate a lot of peace and empowerment. So
yes, that is definitely one big thing that I've had multiple, probably almost every one of my clients, once they are like, oh, I understand it, it really does give them a lot of peace. And I think that helps in decision making too. Like, when you have peace about what's going on, you know the books. You're not just like pulling some paper from who knows who and what did they do. We don't know. Like, you're coming with knowing at least mostly what those numbers mean, what they say, what it's about. It does create a lot of peace in each of those people. So I agree.
Yeah. And so the mind-body connection then is that when I'm not feeling so low in this life area, then I can expand into my positive emotional space and elevate my frequency there.
And sometimes that frequency elevates by doing it, right? Sometimes people are so depressed, they're like, I don't want to run, right? I'm so depressed, I don't want to run. If they just go outside and start running around their house and then decide, okay, maybe I'll run around the block, and then they run longer and longer. Sometimes it's that first action too that helps to switch their frequency up to be able to say, okay, now I believe I can do more. And then the frequency just keeps growing and getting higher because they started with a step that maybe they thought there's no way I could do that. So sometimes that first step is actually a physical action. Again, I'm going to come back to this paper and pen. Sometimes that's the initial action. The action is writing down the goal, writing down what they want, and then to look at it, and then to say, okay, what can I do to make that thing come to pass? Even though I'm calling it by the law of attraction, I'm calling it here. What's the action that I can take that will bring that here faster? And then do that action with the magnet, and it brings it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Nalihda has helped me reclaim thousands of dollars back into my life, and so I am glad that we connected, right? Whatever law of attraction brought us together, that's been fantastic. If other people are feeling like maybe they want to have some bookkeeping support in their lives, or have more questions maybe they don't want to ask here, how can people connect with you?
They can connect with me. They can look me up online, or what just got put in the chat is my Calendly link. If you click on the Calendly link, you can schedule a time that works for you for a consultation. They're 60 minutes and it's free. I say it's free. I present it free, but it's $150 of my time. So I will sit down and we go through, how big is your company? What does your company need? What is or even your home, right? I've helped people do their own personal bookkeeping for their home life. Usually those are people who are headed into divorce, but there are some that they just want to get life insurance, or they want to get a trust set up, but they don't even know where their money is. They have no clue. And so I help people in that capacity in their home finances. And then with business finances, we'll sit down and just see how big their company is, how much time of coaching that it might take for them to figure it out, for me to help them, or if I was to just take on their bookkeeping and do it for them. Then we talk about all those things. And most often people leave that consultation, even if they choose to never work with me again in a paying me situation. I don't think I've ever had someone leave that consultation without feeling like they had added value. They learned more about their bookkeeping. They learned more about where they were, at least, to then have the faith of, I can do this, or I might need to look for this other type of person, right? Because there are times that I'm like, I'm just not the best fit for that situation, but here are people that I know. And then I can lead them to where they need to go to get the information that they need. So it's helpful for anyone, whether you end up using our bookkeeping services or not. It's really helpful to see where you are. So
Yeah. Nalihda, you are definitely a gift to many. So thank you so much for your time today. I know that I often say when I am confronted with things that are different from what I do, I would rather write a 5,000 word paper than know all of the things that you know, but I'm glad that we both know what we know so we can support one another as we grow. So any final words of wisdom or thought that you would want to say to someone who's, wanting to get next level in their business, or just considering, do I need a bookkeeper? Any final thoughts or words of wisdom?
My final thoughts and words of wisdom, I think, are always just make sure that you at least know where you're at. Like, if you don't do all the bookkeeping, at least keep track of your bank accounts and say, okay, how much do I have in my bank accounts? I think that looking at those and checking in with your money daily or weekly is really, really important in a business long term. But having some sort of system, even if you're not paying another person to help you with it, having a system is very, very important. And it's important on many levels. First of all, if you have a business, it's a law, like you have to have bookkeeping for your business. That part is, whether you do it yourself or not, there's that part that's like I call it the fear side, but like, okay, we can sell with fear, or we can say, oh, we'd like to be able to know your information. But either way, it's a very important piece for any business to make sure you know where your finances are and where your money is going and coming, for many reasons, right? So I would say that's the final thing that I really hope that people have some sort of system, whether that's on Excel, whether that's on QuickBooks, whether it's on Xero. Like, I don't care where. I do hope that everyone gets a sort of system that they keep track of their money.
One more thing that I think is scary is sometimes I think if I hire a bookkeeper, it's going to be really expensive and take a lot of my money. So can you debunk that for me?
I debunk that for you. I'm going to start with, if you have a bookkeeper or an accountant, you have an accounting section in your business, you pay someone in-house. Most often that's going to be anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000 a year. If you're not bringing in that kind of money, then oftentimes I would say, it's definitely going to be cheaper to hire someone for just that portion, because they would only need to work on that maybe 5 to 10 hours a month versus someone that you'd need to pay full time. So that's a big thing right now, is people hiring out just that portion. And then with the coaching, the way that I price my coaching and that we do it, we start with I'm going to say an upfront, maybe 1 to 2 hours a week. And that price is a lot more for that time, right? But then we move down once we've got that all in order. And depending on the size of the company, how new or old it is, all that kind of stuff, it can be anywhere from 1 to 6 months. I think I've had one person that went all the way to 12 months, but they had a lot to clean up and they didn't do their homework. So it's if you do the homework, it goes a lot faster. So in that case, it's usually 1 to 3 months is average that they stay on this larger time frame, and then they move down to only like once or twice a month that they meet with me. And then they're able to just keep everything in order, and it becomes a lot cheaper than hiring even someone else to do your books, because you've learned to do it yourself and you are able to take care of it yourself in, again, 1 to 3 hours a month. If you've got when we have your to-do list set up and you're going through that, it can be 15, 20 minutes a week. You sit down for your little money date, categorize all the things, make sure it's all in right, and then you're off to the races. So that is, I would say it is definitely cheaper for sure than hiring even an accountant to do your books. If you hire an accountant to do your books, you're going to be spending a lot more per hour, because most of the accountants I know don't even do any bookkeeping work for less than $250 an hour. So they're pricey, because that's not what they want to be doing. They want you to do your own bookkeeping. So
So I think that that helps, right? I think it's a conversation. So everybody can take advantage of the free consult, and everybody that wants to. Yes.
Yes. Everyone that wants to. And even if you have friends, you can share that, and I will do a free consult for your friends also.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Nalihda, for joining us today and for doing what you do in the world. I got to be part of the first Love Solve Academy, which was so amazing. And it actually transformed my life. If you close your eyes and you just imagine that roller coaster of life, what it looks like, what it feels like, it's exhausting, it's stressful, it's fast, it's moving quickly, and you feel like you're not holding on, and you just need to get off. This is your chance. The Love Solve Academy is 4 amazing, gorgeous programs that Christine has developed over the last decade or so, and she's brought together in one place. Over the course of 4 months, we're going to love solve and level up, both in your life, in your relationships, in your business, in all the areas of your life. So, and it's not just for your business. Can be for your personal life, but sometimes they work hand in hand. So the Love Solve Academy really occurs over 4 phases, and the goal is really to help you move from the lower frequency that you may be experiencing in your life in one or more aspects. And so we're really going to build that foundation by going to frequency school, which I think is such a cool term and a great way for us to really start to understand where we're at, where we're stuck, where we need to get unblocked. And then we start moving up to 300, 200, 300. And then we move to phase 2, which is liberation, and really starting to release some of those negative emotions and those blocks so that we can begin to clear our minds in a way that allows us to meditate using the quantum wholeness meditation concept. And then we will get to the 0 point meridian, which, by the way, I'm just getting certified in that myself. And it is so powerful. It's so transformational. If you got to do it earlier with Colette, you know that just that little tiny bit can transform you. I've seen my client go from a 10 to a 4 in a matter of 30 minutes. So it's amazing. So phase 1, we're going to shift. We're going to move. We're going to raise your frequency in your 5 life areas and allow you to show up in a new, higher way for your clients, your employees, your family, and even yourself. We're going to actually dive into the Love Solve method. So you're going to notice new breakthroughs for solving the love in your life. And who here could use more love in your life? I think we all can. So the liberation model it's a transformational training that really gets to transforming our emotions in a way that allows us to release the old stuff and get to a place of neutrality so that we can start adding joy and love and peace and gratitude into our life on a regular basis. And just as Kathy was alluding to, we can all bring this into our relationships and enjoy a different level of relationship with our partners. This also includes private and group coaching sessions for the 0 Point Meridian with trained practitioners, which is super awesome. The third level, then the third phase, is to elevate your own perspective. And this is where we bring the Christian heart and the Eastern mind together. This is one of the first things that made me fall in love with Christine when she said this one sentence, because I've always known that there was some way that we could find that balance in a safe way. And this is it. So you're going to experience more clarity, a stress relief in your life. You're going to feel fulfillment, and honestly, you're going to get answers very quickly because your mind is at a stage where you can really be clear at a 500 frequency to get this information through quantum wholeness meditation.